Good morning. So this is one of the continuing emergency management briefings. And what we're talking about today is autumn and wet weather resilience. So this is going to be a quick primer on preparing for the return of Washington's winds and rain. So this year, the National Weather Service is forecasting that we're going to have a slightly warmer than usual, partially because of the Pacific currents that are coming in, but temperatures will still range from 48 up to 57 degrees. And in November, we can expect at least 2 inches on average of rainfall or precipitation. And we'll be getting our first snow, no question about it. So it's already happening in the mountains now, but we can expect in the next 2 or 3 weeks to see a dusting here on our roadways as well. And again, wind and rain. We're expecting that for sure. That seems to be common this time of year. So at this point, go ahead and click on this particular presentation on your own. So we'll have a very quick primer video about preparing for a storm. In the past, we've talked a little bit about preparing a home safety kit. Now, that's important to keep in mind as well. Make sure that your family is set up in the event that there is an emergency or the weather ends up going downhill. And that includes your pets. Make sure that you keep them indoors whenever there's a windstorm or a torrential rainstorm as well. One important point as well is make sure that you've got some cash currency at home, because in many cases, if there is a sustained power outage, the ATMs may be down as well. So, and then we'll talk a little bit more about gas generators or charcoal-based barbecues or heaters, and the important thing about keeping them away from areas where the carbon monoxide might affect you or your family. Probably the most important thing to remember regarding power and electricity and related items and issues is that if you've got any sensitive electronics, such as CPAP machines, particularly medical devices, or computers, or anything else, power surges can fry them. Now, I've unfortunately experienced that personally. I lost a computer during a power surge. Make sure you have surge protectors. That's a critical element, or you've got proper ground fault circuit interrupters as well. The final point that I would like to bring up on this particular slide is that generators produce all kinds of carbon monoxide gases, toxic gases, and so forth. So anything like a generator or a charcoal-based heater, they need to be kept in a very well ventilated, preferably outside location, because unfortunately fatalities have occurred when people have brought them into garages or areas where the fumes could actually vent into the house. So keep that in mind. Anything that has to do with generators, they need to stay outside because the carbon monoxide is potentially a killer as well. So one really important thing to remember about the heavy winds that we experience in autumn is that they could potentially cause all kinds of issues, especially since we're driving early in the morning. It's a lot darker. We're not fully alert yet. And oftentimes there are people, particularly children, going to school in the dark now that might be on the roadway. If the winds are heavy, people can be blown into the roadway. So as you're driving, that's an important consideration. And also keep in mind that cars, SUVs even, they can easily be blown into your lane when you're driving. So that's an important element of wind awareness as well. So traditionally, we've passed on the message that moving away from windows, getting away from under trees, and so that's also important. So with winds, be situationally aware. One other important reminder for this time of year is that with the heavy rains that we've got coming down, they saturate the ground. And then when that's followed by a heavy windstorm, we might even find times where large trees can be uprooted and toppled over altogether. So it's important to be aware when you're driving or when you're walking that trees are no longer as stable in autumn because the fact that the roots are now exposed because of the water that comes down and saturates the roots and the ground as well. So elements of awareness extend simply to when you're walking and driving, as well as the big flood puddles that occur during rainstorms too. A lot of people aren't aware that just 2 feet of water can actually move a car and wash it away. So don't drive through any large puddles, and just be situationally aware during this time and what to do and what not to do. Many of you have heard me respond to our agency as critical infrastructure, and in that light, I've also said that we are all first responders. Well, it's important for us to kind of keep in mind that resilience is basically a formula. It's preparation plus awareness. And resilience is defined as how quickly we can bounce back after a hazardous event, such as these storms or wind situations occur. And we need to be aware of one thing, and that is that the community depends on the service that we provide. Water is vital. And the only way that we can come in and do our job after a critical event happening, like a windstorm or a power outage, is if we know that our families are safe. So the first step is to make sure that everything is prepared at home. You've got your kit, your family's taken care of, because we do need to come back to work and then deliver the vital services that we provide to the community. So look at that formula, keep it in mind, and make sure that everything is intact at home. That way you can provide the best public service that we can give to the people who depend on us. So thanks for listening. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out by email, or you can call me directly, or you can also chat with Ryan at the M&O offices. So thanks again, and be prepared.